Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Since spending money sucks, let's spend less today. Cheap clone frags that smell like expensive frags. Smell this, spin this. Also gonna hook you up with the giveaway today. Check this out. This is called Kaheela Platinum. Once upon a time, got a little bit of hype. Just for a little while there, you know? But now, forgotten in the annals of history. Mine is aged. That means that it's better, because that's how it works, according to the internet. Maturation is good for clones. And you can see that mine has turned a beautiful green color here. And actually that makes sense because this one smells similar to LeBeau. And it's actually surprisingly good. One of the better Paris Corner dupes out there. It has a really nice coconut beach scent profile to it. It's tropical, it's creamy, it's sweet, it's fresh. Big attention grabber. The only real drawback is, first off, the cap. It doesn't really work for me. Not a huge deal, but if you plan on picking up your bottle by the cap, that ain't happening. And also the atomizer is a trashamizer. Outside of that, really solid stuff. And I scooped another one up for one of you. We'll get to that later. Nice, it didn't go off the table. It's good. You know, sometimes I just get a little too rowdy with it. Push it off, you know. Bros, it's afternoon dive. That's completely different from afternoon swim. It's a totally different thing. But in terms of the smell, it's actually pretty much the same thing. You see what they did there? Yeah. They had me going for a second there. I was like, afternoon dive, what could that be? It's so confusing. So many fragrances it could smell similar to, and then no, just afternoon swim. As it says on the front there, orange, bergamot, marine, accord, and yeah, that's what you're gonna get from here. The citrus smells fantastic off the top. Quality, as is typical with Montaigne, very high. Eau de parfum concentration, but you're gonna get a little better performance here than the Louis Vuitton, but to be fair, that's not really saying a whole heck of a lot. That's not exactly known as a strong fragrance. It is known as an expensive fragrance though, and that is absolutely true. Now, to be fair, when it comes to the LV, to the Louis Vuitton, there are a billion different fragrances out there that you can roll with nowadays that are gonna get you kind of similar, right? I just like to bring this one up from time to time because it flies under the radar, but in terms of quality, it's better than pretty much everything else out there. Now, this one I just wanna mention very quickly. This is Pacific Aloha. This is by Raees. So this is one of their new ones that was released at a big influencer party thing. Oh, I'm at the beach, let's go! This is so effing good! You don't understand. I had a brain tumor and I sprayed this on, cleared it up. Also, it got me 52 billion compliments. What do you mean there aren't that many people alive on the planet? Aliens can like fragrances. So yeah, Pacific Aloha. This right here smells similar to Wave Child, which is fragrance that had kind of like a quick hit. You had a couple of alternatives to that one come out. Atlantis by French Avenue, probably the most well-known. And this is gonna slot in right alongside that one. Side by side, I would say that this one to me is creamier. It leans a little bit more feminine than Atlantis does. It doesn't have as much of the like watermelon pop, at least to me. This one, a little bit more sugary, sweet, creamy, and like I said, slightly feminine leaning, which makes sense because of the color scheme on the bottle as well. You know, it's got kind of a chick vibe to it. Is that just me? I mean, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, no, dude, you're wrong. You're out of pocket, brother. Fragrances don't have a gender. Which is true. This is just a bottle, but you know what I'm saying. So there's that one, but I'm just gonna set that over there. Do have this Raees. This is the other Pacific. This is Pacific Aura. And as far as my jam, this is much more that. This, I like. Actually, nice bloody fragrance, mate. This one's got that big burst of citrus and mint when you first spray it on. Nice alternative to Pacific Chill by Louis Vuitton again. It has that touch of fig in there as well. It's got that balance of like fresh, juicy, bright, at times a little bit sharp and green. Fantastic smelling stuff. One of my favorite Raees fragrances right here. So Pacific Aura, that's a Pacific I can get behind. Bros, can we get dirt cheap? Can we just get straight up like filthy, disgusting Joe Dirt levels of inexpensive? Is that cool? What am I talking about? A fragrance that is 13 doll hairs at Gift Express as of this video. Yeah, like Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees showing up, not with a machete, but with an inexpensive fragrance to help you smell nice. He's just misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? Dark Door Sport Maison Alhambra. So this is, of course, the more affordable line from Lattafa, where a lot of times they do this, frankly. They just go like, hey, make a Temu-looking version of that fragrance, ship it. And that is what this is. Yeah, so you can tell by looking at it, Dark Door Sport is Dior Homme Sport. Now I would say that it is not quite as refined as Dior Homme Sport. So keep that in mind. Probably shouldn't be a surprise because again, $13, which to be fair is one of those things where I hear that and I'm like, how can that even possibly be profitable? Like I understand bulk, right? I understand that, but you have the glass, you have the boxes, you have the fragrance, you have the people that have to physically, you know, help package everything. I understand there are machines involved. And then you have to ship it, right, to a distributor or a store, and then they have to mark it up so that they can sell it and make money. And I'm just like, huh? Yeah, it's cheap, but it is a pretty nice alternative to Dior Homme Sport as long as you go into it understanding it's not gonna be quite as refined as the Big Daddy, which is also in BioShock. For those of you that played that, totally different. It doesn't even make sense to this. It has maybe a little bit more of like a slightly rough around the edges, spicy pop to it, but really nicely done on the cheap here. Oh, what's that? Oh, it just keeps going. It keeps going. It's a Rabiat Prestige Raees Luxury Edition. 6 ounces in this bad boy right here. And the Luxury Edition smells similar to Acqua di Gio Profumo. I probably don't need to tell you this, but Acqua di Gio Profumo, that's discontinued. And you know what that means? It means 2 things. First, tons of fakes flooding eBay at unrealistic prices. Don't buy those. You're not getting a good deal on Acqua di Gio Profumo. You're getting ripped off. The second thing goes back in with the first thing. They're really expensive. Like if you want a real Acqua di Gio Profumo, it's gonna cost you. That's how it is with everything, guys. It's how it is with everything on this earth. You know, if there's like a nice vintage car or something like that, you're not gonna be able to go get a real one for $3 grand. Or if you do, it's gonna be rusted and falling apart and just be a complete travesty. Are fragrances cars? They are not, but you get what I'm saying. Now this is not a dead ringer for Acqua di Gio Profumo, so do keep that in mind. It's more so one of those ones where you smell it and you clearly know what it's inspired by. It's just not the exact same. Now this is one that you may need to let sit and mature a little bit. Yeah, we did just talk about that before, right? So that may be something that you have happen with this one, happened with me. Not that it was bad initially, it wasn't, just got better. The cap does not like to stay on there too much for this one either. That's just a small pet peeve of mine, not really a big deal. And there's also Raees in just the blue bottle. It smells similar to Acqua di Gio Profondo. So if you're more into that scent profile than Profumo, you get that one. All right, now I mentioned this one over here, 13 bucks at Gift Express, extremely cheap. All of these much cheaper than the fragrances they smell similar to. But if you shop Rose at Gift Express or JOMASHOP or Fragflex or Perfume Box or any of these other stores, I got you. More codes to save extra cash. They're also in the description so you can copy and paste those codes if you want. Save yourself a little bit of extra money. Armaf in the house right here. Blue Sky. So this one is interesting because it's one of those ones that's low-key really, really good, but you know, it doesn't have that big name that's gonna kind of carry it through to where a lot of people know about it or care about it, frankly. Like if this were somehow a Club de Nuit or something like that, I think a lot more people would go, oh yeah, that's good stuff, especially at that price point. Because this one right here, sub $30, and it smells similar to Scent of Peace for Helm by Bond Number 9, which is a fragrance brand that is, what do you call it? Friggin' expensive, at least for most people, I'd say, pretty comfortably. Now, Scent of Peace for Helm, that's a fragrance that is sort of in the overarching Creed's Aventus style, okay? It's not the same as Aventus, but it is one of those deals where you can pick out some bits and bobs between the two and go, okay, I think they were inspired by this. It's that kind of vibe. And Blue Sky here is, to me, a little bit of a fresher take on Scent of Peace for him. And a lot of that Aventus comparison is gonna boil down to some of the fruits that are in there. So for example, this has black currant, it has pineapple, Really, you just have to say those two notes, like blackcurrant, pineapple. I see what you're doing here, but there's also apple in here. So you got apple and pineapple, then there's citrus as well. A little bit of white flowers, some vanilla, and ambroxan as it dries down, super wearable. Stuff smells really, 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 really nice. And again, it's like 28 bucks or something. The next one is for all the bros out there who are like, Hawas ice? Yeah, that's fine, Hawas ice, yeah, that's good. But what about something that smells similar to Hawas ice that isn't Hawas ice? Which is like, oh, okay, yeah, that's okay. I'm sure there's a huge audience of people clamoring for that. Hooked Azure, or I guess you could be like Azure, hooked Azure. So what are we talking about with this one right here? Well, performance, nice. It's got solid performance and the price is about 20 bucks. So we're keeping it cheap. It does have a very fresh but bubblegummy sweet type of opening, which again, you know, a bit similar to Hawas Ice, could remind you of Nitro Red, could remind you of the original Hawas. And because of that similarity to those fragrances, it's also gonna remind you of Invictus, Invictus Aqua, stuff like that. So you could say at this point, man, Hawas Ice, Hawas, Invictus, Nitro Red, all that stuff is played out, man. And I would say, yes and no. Is it a super popular type of fragrance that's been around that people have known about? Yes. Does it still work? Also, yes. Is being able to scoop something like that up for 20 bucks solid? Also yes. Let's quicken the pace with Varrock Silver. This one by Fragrance World, and it basically says, what if we did Gentle Fluidity Silver, but cheaper? Yes, a much more affordable take on that style of fragrance. With a really nice aromatic lift to it, also clean and classy, as you would expect of anything that smells similar to MFK. Also something that MFK usually has, very high price tags. Yeah, like soul crushing sometimes. This is not gonna be as outwardly screamy as far as the opening goes compared to a lot of these other ones. You know, some of these others, a bigger citrus lift or more of that tropical explosion that really tries to grab attention immediately. This one is just for somebody who wants something that smells high end, but at the same time, enough restrainment to it that you're not walloping people over the head with a club. Which I guess there's a time and place for that, for you to go full on caveman and just like, fragrance, smell fragrance. But sometimes having it, you know, reined in is the way to go. Look, it's Rasasi, and this one is Hawas Thunder. A Hawas fragrance in today's day and age? Those are super rare. Yeah, man, they just haven't come out with one of those in like 3 days. I have no clue when we'll get the next one. Funny thing about that is, as I filmed this video, you know, there have been some new ones announced again. And in the back of my head, I'm just like, even though they just announced these new ones, are there gonna be 2 or 3 more new ones that get announced in like a month? It wouldn't surprise me at this point. And I'll say, man, Hawas fragrance is very hit or miss. Some of them, lights out, great stuff. And then other releases, trash, just rough, you know? This, one of the better ones. Yeah, this is one of the best ones that Rasasi has done, period. Not just like recently, but period. It smells really similar to Myself Absolute, extremely popular, of course, everybody rocking Myself nowadays. And with that being YSL and one of their flagship YSL mainline designer fragrances, it's also pricey, especially if we're talking full retail. It's gonna cost you a pretty penny. And where it is really popular at discounters, they're not really marking it off a whole heck of a lot. So now there are other ones out there. Nitro Elixir by Dumont, that's really good as well. But once the price on this one drops even further, I think it's probably gonna be the one a lot of people gravitate towards. And it's not that this is crazy expensive now or anything. Obviously it's way cheaper than YSL, Myself Absolute, but it is newer. And so what that means is it has a propensity to sell out. If it sells out, then you might go to eBay and, you know, people are gonna be trying to scalp it and stuff like that. So with this one, I do wanna put that out there. If you really want this fragrance and you're like, oh, I gotta pick it up, I gotta have it, check the stores, right? The typical discounters that carry this stuff. And if it's sold out, just wait. You know, don't go to eBay and get ripped off. I know it sucks sometimes when you really want something and you're like, oh, I'll just buy it now. Don't do that. And let's wrap it up with the 2-for-1. Aristo by Rabia Prestige. And then this over here, Bravanzo Vestige. This is Ramon Blazar. always like to say that Ramon Blazer. That's not a real person. There is no Ramon Blazer. So this right here is Ingenious Ginger by Goldfield and Banks. This is probably the one I'd go toward myself if I were picking up just one. It has a nice, smooth, sweet ginger to it instead of a really aggressive, abrasive ginger, which some other alternatives have. So this one, fantastic if you're looking for that. And this right here, it's very similar to Vibrato, which means it could also remind you a little bit of Bulgari Tiger, because those fragrances kind of, for some people, end up being interchangeable to an extent, even though side by side they're really different. But yeah, you're gonna get a nice citrus pop with this, a nice lift, you know, fresh spiciness, and a little bit of a green tinge to it as well. Obviously, you can tell by the color of the bottle here. Not gonna be quite as powdery and musky as Vibrato though, so if you side by side, there is gonna be that difference there. All right, let's do the giveaway. So whoop, it's that one right there, which is that one right there. Still sealed and all that stuff. If you wanna be entered in the giveaway, just let me know your go-to fresh summertime cheap fragrance that you would suggest to a friend if they were wanting something that smells expensive or to buy in place of the expensive original. I'll pick a winner with random comment picker and post it up on the post tab of the YouTube channel. If you're the winner, hit me up, I'll ship that out to you. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.